Colonel Marcus Richardson had seen enough battlefields to know the difference between luck and skill. At 52, with silver threading through his dark hair and weathered lines mapping 30 years of military service, he carried himself with the quiet confidence of a man who had earned his rank through blood, sweat, and countless difficult decisions. The morning sun cast long shadows across the forward operating base in eastern Afghanistan as Richardson made his routine inspection of the sniper positions. The rocky outpost, perched on a strategic hilltop overlooking the Kunar Valley, housed some of the military's finest marksmen. Each position was carefully maintained, each rifle treated like the precision instrument it was meant to be. He paused at the third position, where Sergeant Elena Vasquez had been stationed for the past 6 months. The 28-year-old from El Paso, Texas, had arrived with impressive credentials from sniper school, but Richardson had initially harbored doubts about placing a woman in such an exposed and dangerous position. Those doubts had gradually faded as he watched her performance, but he still felt the weight of responsibility for every soldier under his command. The CheyTac M200 intervention rifle lay positioned with military precision, its massive frame gleaming despite the harsh desert conditions. Richardson knew the weapon well. A 408 caliber monster, capable of engaging targets at extraordinary distances, requiring both exceptional skill and perfect conditions to achieve its maximum potential. The rifle alone cost more than most people made in a year, and only the most trusted marksmen were assigned to operate such equipment. As Richardson approached the rifle for a closer inspection, something caught his eye that made him stop mid-step. There, carefully etched into the wooden stock of the rifle, was a small emblem he had never noticed before. His experienced eyes immediately recognized the significance of what he was seeing. A sniper emblem marking an extremely long-distance kill. The number 2,850 was engraved below a crosshair symbol, followed by the letter M for meters. Richardson felt his breath catch in his throat. 2,850 meters, nearly 2 miles. He had heard rumors of such shots being made, legendary stories whispered among snipers, but seeing the claim marked on a rifle in his own command was something entirely different. Richardson's mind immediately began calculating. At that distance, a bullet would take several seconds to reach its target, during which time wind, humidity, temperature, and even the rotation of the Earth would affect its trajectory. The target would be barely visible even through the most advanced scopes, appearing as little more than a distant speck. The margin for error would be virtually non-existent. He looked around the position more carefully, noting details he had previously overlooked. Vasquez's shooting log was meticulously maintained, filled with weather data, wind readings, and distance calculations written in her neat handwriting. Her equipment was arranged with an almost obsessive attention to detail, every tool clean and properly positioned. This was not the setup of an average sniper, but of someone operating at an elite level. The colonel found himself questioning everything he thought he knew about Sergeant Vasquez. During their brief interactions, she had always been professional but quiet, never boasting about her achievements or drawing attention to herself. She completed her assigned duties without complaint and maintained her position with exemplary discipline. But Richardson had never suspected she might be capable of such an extraordinary feat of marksmanship. A sound of footsteps on the rocky ground behind him announced someone's approach. Richardson turned to see Sergeant Vasquez climbing up to her position, carrying a steaming cup of coffee and a small notebook. She moved with the fluid grace of someone comfortable in challenging terrain. Her dark hair pulled back in a regulation bun, her uniform crisp despite the early morning hour. When she saw the colonel standing beside her rifle, examining the emblem, her step faltered slightly. For a moment, their eyes met, and Richardson saw something flash across her face. Not fear or guilt, but perhaps resignation. As if she had known this moment would eventually come. "Colonel," she said, setting down her coffee and standing at attention with practiced precision. Her voice carried a slight Texas accent, steady and respectful. Richardson gestured toward the emblem on the rifle stock. "Sergeant Vasquez, would you care to explain what I'm looking at here?" Vasquez glanced at the rifle, then back at the colonel. "Sir, that represents a confirmed kill at 2,850 meters. made during my previous deployment in Syria. The matter-of-fact way she delivered this information struck Richardson as remarkable. Most soldiers would have either embellished such a claim or shown some emotion when discussing it. But Vasquez spoke as if reporting routine maintenance on her equipment. 2850, Richardson repeated, his voice carrying a note of incredulity. Sergeant, are you aware that would make it one of the longest confirmed sniper kills in military history? Yes, sir. The shot was witnessed and verified by my spotter, and confirmed by drone footage. All documentation was filed with the appropriate commands. Richardson realized that his knowledge of his own soldiers was perhaps not as complete as he had believed. And why was I not made aware of this achievement when you were assigned to my unit? Vasquez shifted slightly, the first sign of discomfort she had shown. Sir, I prefer to let my current work speak for itself. Past achievements don't guarantee future performance. The colonel studied her face, noting the quiet confidence mixed with humility. This was not false modesty or an attempt to avoid attention. Vasquez genuinely seemed more interested in doing her job than in receiving recognition for her extraordinary skill. Sergeant, I've been in command positions for over 15 years, and I can count on one hand the number of soldiers who have surprised me the way you have this morning. A shot at that distance isn't just marksmanship, it's a combination of advanced mathematics, perfect timing, and nerves of steel. Thank you, sir. Richardson found himself curious about the circumstances that had led to such a remarkable shot, but he also recognized that they were standing in an active combat zone, where practical considerations took precedence over satisfying curiosity. We'll discuss this further when time permits, Sergeant. For now, carry on with your duties. As he began to walk away, Vasquez called out, Colonel? When he turned back, she continued, Sir, I hope this doesn't change anything about my assignment here. This position offers excellent fields of fire, and I believe I can continue to serve effectively. Richardson paused, considering her words. Sergeant, discovering that one of my soldiers is capable of performance at this level doesn't make me want to reassign her. It makes me want to understand how best to utilize her skills. We'll talk more soon. As he continued his inspection tour, Richardson's mind kept returning to the simple emblem carved into the rifle stock. In his experience, the most dangerous soldiers were often the quietest ones. The professionals who focused on their work rather than seeking glory. Sergeant Vasquez appeared to fit that mold perfectly. The discovery had also raised questions about intelligence and reconnaissance capabilities that he had not previously considered. If Vasquez was capable of engaging targets at such extreme distances, it opened up tactical possibilities that could significantly impact their operations in this challenging terrain. Walking back toward the command post, Richardson made a mental note to review Vasquez's complete service record and to have a detailed conversation with her about her training and experience. The military had invested considerable resources in developing elite marksmen, and it appeared that he had one of the very best under his command without even realizing it. The morning sun climbed higher, beginning to heat the rocky landscape around the forward operating base. In a few hours, the daily routine of patrols, reconnaissance, and defensive preparations would begin in earnest. But for Colonel Richardson, the day had already provided enough surprises to last a week. He found himself looking forward to learning more about the quiet sergeant from Texas who had just redefined his understanding of what was possible with a rifle and the right person behind it. In a theater of operations where every advantage could mean the difference between mission success and failure, discovering hidden capabilities among his own forces was always welcome news. The emblem on the rifle stock represented more than just an impressive shot. It represented the kind of professional excellence that could change the outcome of critical operations. Richardson knew that understanding and properly utilizing such exceptional skills would be one of his most important responsibilities in the weeks ahead. 3 days later, Colonel Richardson sat across from Sergeant Vasquez in his private office, a manila folder containing her complete service record spread open on the desk between them. What he had discovered in those files had been almost as surprising as finding the emblem on her rifle. Elena Vasquez had not followed a typical path to becoming one of the military's elite snipers. Born in El Paso to a family of modest means, she had worked her way through college with a degree in mathematics before enlisting. Her initial military occupation had been as an intelligence analyst, where her analytical skills and attention to detail had quickly gained notice from her supervisors. "Your file shows you scored perfect marks in advanced mathematics and meteorology," Richardson noted, looking up from the documents. "Those aren't typical qualifications for someone requesting sniper training." Vasquez sat with perfect posture, her hands folded in her lap. "Sir, I realized early in my service that understanding environmental factors and trajectory calculations could give me an advantage. When the opportunity arose to apply for sniper school, I felt my background would be useful." "Useful," Richardson repeated with a slight smile. "Sergeant, you graduated first in your class from one of the most demanding training programs in the military. Your instructors noted that your mathematical approach to long-range shooting was unlike anything they had seen before." The conversation was taking place during a brief lull in operations, giving them time for this overdue discussion. Outside the window, the rocky landscape stretched toward distant mountains where enemy forces were known to operate, a constant reminder of why elite marksmanship skills were so valuable in this environment. "Tell me about Syria," Richardson said, closing the folder and leaning back in his chair. "The circumstances that led to your 2850 shot." Vasquez was quiet for a moment, organizing her thoughts. "It was during Operation Inherent Resolve, sir. My unit was providing overwatch for a humanitarian convoy, attempting to reach civilians trapped in a contested area near Raqqa. Intelligence had indicated the route was clear, but that intelligence proved to be incomplete." She paused, and Richardson could see her mentally returning to that day 18 months earlier. "The convoy came under attack from a concealed position approximately 2 miles from our overwatch location. The enemy sniper was positioned in a partially collapsed building, targeting the convoy vehicles with devastating effectiveness." Richardson knew from experience that convoy attacks were among the most dangerous situations ground forces faced. Vehicles loaded with supplies or personnel became trapped on roads, vulnerable to enemy fire from concealed positions that could be difficult to identify and eliminate. Our standard protocol would have been to call for air support, but weather conditions made that impossible. Heavy clouds and high winds had grounded all aircraft in the area. The convoy was pinned down, taking casualties, and we were the only asset in position to provide assistance. Vasquez described the tactical situation with the precision of someone who had studied every detail. The enemy sniper had chosen his position carefully, with excellent fields of fire and multiple escape routes. Traditional counter-sniper tactics would have required repositioning forces, a process that would have taken too long to save the convoy. "I requested permission to engage at extreme range," she continued. "My spotter, Corporal Johnson, initially argued against it. The distance was beyond anything either of us had attempted under field conditions, but the mathematical calculations suggested it was theoretically possible under the specific environmental conditions we faced that day." Richardson found himself leaning forward, drawn into the tactical details. "What were those conditions?" Temperature was 72 degrees Fahrenheit, humidity at 38%, barometric pressure at standard levels. But the most important factor was the wind. We had been monitoring wind patterns for over an hour, and there was a brief window where conditions aligned across the entire trajectory. The technical aspects of extremely long-range shooting were complex beyond what most people understood. At distances approaching 3 kilometers, snipers had to account not just for wind and gravity, but for the Coriolis effect caused by Earth's rotation. A bullet traveling for several seconds through the air would be affected by the planet's movement beneath it. The calculation required me to account for a wind pattern that changed at 3 different altitudes along the bullet's path, Vasquez explained. Ground-level winds were minimal, but there were crosswinds at mid-level altitude that would push the bullet approximately 8 meters left of target, followed by high-altitude winds that would partially correct that deviation. Richardson realized he was listening to someone who approached shooting with the precision of an engineer solving a complex physics problem. "How long did you have to make this calculation?" Approximately 4 minutes. "Sir." The convoy was taking increasingly accurate fire, and we could see personnel attempting to evacuate wounded from the vehicles. Every minute we delayed meant more casualties. The pressure of making such complex calculations while knowing that lives depended on accuracy was something Richardson could hardly imagine. Military training prepared soldiers for high-stress decision-making, but this situation required a unique combination of mathematical skill and steady nerves. I made the calculations using both manual computation and a ballistic calculator, then double-checked the results with Corporal Johnson. We aligned the scope to compensate for all environmental factors. Then I began the breathing routine to achieve the necessary steadiness for the shot. Vasquez described the final moments before firing with clinical precision. The process of steadying heart rate and breathing to achieve the microscopic level of precision required for extreme distance shooting was an art form in itself. At nearly 3 kilometers, the slightest movement would translate to a complete miss. The target was barely visible through the scope, appearing as a small dark shape against the building's shadows. I had to estimate his exact position based on muzzle flash patterns and the angle of incoming fire on the convoy. There was no margin for error. Richardson could visualize the scene. A young sergeant lying prone behind her rifle, making calculations that would challenge a physics professor, while people died in the distance if she failed. The mental pressure alone would have overwhelmed most people. I fired at 14:23 hours local time. The bullet's flight time at that distance was approximately 3.7 seconds. During that time, the target could have moved, the wind pattern could have shifted, or any number of variables could have changed. The moment of firing represented the culmination of years of training, mathematical preparation, and split-second decision-making under extreme pressure. Once the bullet left the rifle, there was nothing more the sniper could do except wait and observe. Impact was confirmed by drone footage 3 minutes after the shot, Vasquez concluded. The enemy sniper was eliminated, and his position fell silent. The convoy was able to complete its evacuation of wounded personnel and continue to its destination. Richardson sat quietly for a moment, processing the details of what he had heard. The technical complexity of the shot was impressive enough, but the life and death circumstances under which it had been made elevated it to an entirely different level. How many people were in that convoy, Sergeant? 37 personnel, sir, including medical staff and humanitarian workers. The enemy sniper had already wounded 6 people and killed 2 before I was able to eliminate him. The human cost of the situation gave Richardson a deeper appreciation for what Vasquez had accomplished. This had not been a demonstration of marksmanship skill for its own sake, but a crucial tactical intervention that had saved lives under desperate circumstances. Your actions that day prevented additional casualties and allowed a humanitarian mission to succeed, Richardson said. Yet you never mention this achievement, unless directly asked about it. Vasquez shifted slightly in her chair. Sir, I was trained to eliminate threats to friendly forces. That day presented a threat that required a specific solution. The distance involved was simply a function of the tactical situation, not something I sought out for personal recognition. Richardson was beginning to understand that Vasquez viewed her exceptional marksmanship ability as a tool to be used when needed, rather than as a source of personal pride. This attitude, combined with her technical expertise, made her exactly the kind of soldier he wanted under his command. The documentation in your file shows that shot officially stands as the longest confirmed sniper kill by a female soldier, and the 3rd longest confirmed kill in military history by any soldier, Richardson noted. Yes, sir. And yet you requested assignment to a standard reconnaissance unit rather than seeking placement with an elite special operations team. Vasquez met his gaze directly. Sir, I believe my skills can be most effectively utilized in support of regular infantry operations. Special operations teams already have access to exceptional marksmen. Standard units sometimes face situations where extreme range capabilities could make a decisive difference. Richardson realized that Vasquez had deliberately chosen to serve where she believed she could have the greatest impact, rather than seeking the prestige assignments that usually came with her level of skill. This decision revealed as much about her character as her remarkable shooting ability did about her technical competence. The discovery of Vasquez's capabilities was changing Richardson's understanding of the tactical options available to his unit, but it was her approach to military service that impressed him most. In an era where social media and instant communication often encouraged soldiers to seek recognition, finding someone who quietly focused on professional excellence was increasingly rare. 6 weeks after Colonel Richardson's discovery of the emblem on Sergeant Vasquez's rifle, the forward operating base received intelligence about a high-value target operating in the mountainous region 40 kilometers to the north. The target was a senior enemy commander responsible for coordinating attacks against coalition forces throughout the province, someone who had successfully evaded capture for over 2 years. Richardson studied the mission briefings in his command tent as dawn approached over the Afghan mountains. Traditional approaches to eliminating this target had failed repeatedly because the enemy commander was extremely cautious, rarely staying in one location for more than a few hours, and always maintaining significant distance from any positions where coalition forces might establish overwatch. Sir, the target has been confirmed at a compound approximately 3,800 meters from the nearest position our forces can safely establish, reported Major Thompson, the unit's intelligence officer. Previous attempts to get closer have been detected, allowing the target to escape. Richardson examined the topographical maps spread across his field desk. The distances involved were beyond the capabilities of standard sniper teams, but they fell within the range of someone with Vasquez's demonstrated abilities. For the first time since learning about her record-breaking shot, he was facing a situation where her unique skills could directly impact a critical mission. "What's the intelligence assessment on weather conditions for the target window?" Richardson asked. "Favorable, sir. Clear skies, minimal wind, temperature, and humidity within acceptable ranges. The meteorological conditions are as close to ideal as we're likely to see in this terrain." Richardson called for Sergeant Vasquez to join the planning session. When she arrived and was briefed on the tactical situation, she studied the maps with the same methodical attention to detail Richardson had observed during their previous conversations. "Sergeant, I want your professional assessment," Richardson said. "Is this target within your engagement capabilities?" Vasquez examined the geographical data, elevation charts, and current weather forecasts before responding. "Sir, the distance is manageable with proper preparation. The terrain provides several potential positions that would offer clear sight lines to the target compound. The primary challenge would be establishing overwatch without detection and maintaining position long enough to confirm target identification and obtain a clear shot. How long would you need to prepare for this mission?" 24 hours for route planning and equipment preparation, sir. I would also want to conduct wind pattern studies for at least 6 hours before any engagement to ensure accuracy of environmental calculations. Richardson appreciated her systematic approach to mission planning. Rather than simply agreeing to attempt the shot, Vasquez was outlining the specific requirements for success. "What support would you need?" "A dedicated spotter familiar with extreme range protocols, sir. Ideally someone with experience in advanced meteorological observation. I would also request access to the most current intelligence on target movement patterns to maximize the probability of engagement during optimal conditions." The mission planning session continued for 2 more hours, as Richardson and his staff developed a comprehensive approach to eliminating the high-value target. Vasquez's involvement transformed what had been considered a nearly impossible mission into an achievable objective with careful execution. 3 days later, Vasquez and her spotter, Staff Sergeant Martinez, established their position on a rocky outcrop overlooking the target area. They had moved into position during darkness, carrying specialized equipment including advanced meteorological instruments and enhanced optical equipment for target identification at extreme distances. Richardson monitored their progress from the command post through encrypted radio communications. Overwatch. This is Control. Report status. Control, Overwatch. Position established. Equipment operational. Beginning environmental assessment and target area surveillance. For the next 18 hours, Vasquez and Martinez maintained their position while gathering data on wind patterns, temperature variations, and target movement patterns. Their observations confirmed that the enemy commander followed a predictable routine, appearing at specific locations within the compound at regular intervals. Control Overwatch. Target confirmed in courtyard area, range 3,780 meters. Environmental conditions are optimal for engagement. Requesting permission to engage. Richardson felt the weight of command responsibility as he considered authorizing the shot. Success would eliminate a significant threat to coalition forces throughout the region, but failure could compromise the position of 2 valuable soldiers in enemy territory. Overwatch. Control. You are authorized to engage when ready. The radio remained silent for several minutes as Vasquez made her final calculations and prepared for the shot. At nearly 4 kilometers distance, even the most advanced rifle scope would show the target as barely more than a small dark shape. The mathematical calculations required to compensate for all environmental factors were staggering in their complexity. Control, overwatch, shot fired. The bullet's flight time at that distance was over 4 seconds, during which anything could change. Richardson found himself holding his breath as he waited for confirmation. Through his radio, he could hear the faint sound of Vasquez and Martinez observing their target area through high-powered optics. Control, overwatch, target down, confirmed hit. Enemy personnel in compound are responding to incident but unable to locate source of fire. Relief flooded through Richardson as he realized the mission had succeeded. Not only had they eliminated a significant threat, but they had done so from a distance that made counterattack nearly impossible. The enemy forces would have no idea where the shot had originated. Overwatch, control, excellent work. Begin extraction procedures immediately. Vasquez and Martinez successfully returned to base 14 hours later, having covered the dangerous terrain under cover of darkness. Their mission had been completed without alerting enemy forces to coalition capabilities in extreme-range operations. In the days following the successful mission, Richardson received congratulatory messages from higher command levels. The elimination of the high-value target had disrupted enemy operations throughout the region and demonstrated tactical capabilities that opened new strategic possibilities. During the after-action review, Vasquez provided detailed documentation of environmental conditions, target acquisition procedures, and shot placement calculations. Her methodical approach to mission execution was as impressive as her marksmanship ability. Sergeant, this mission will likely result in recommendations for commendation and possible promotion, Richardson informed her during their debrief session. Your performance has attracted attention at very high levels of command. Vasquez received this news with the same quiet professionalism she had shown throughout their interactions. Thank you, sir. I hope my actions contributed to mission success and force protection. They did significantly more than that, Richardson replied. You've demonstrated capabilities that are changing how we approach certain types of operations in this theater. Several weeks later, Richardson received official notification that Vasquez had been selected for assignment to an elite special operations unit, where her skills would be utilized in the most challenging missions. The transfer represented a significant career advancement and recognition of her exceptional abilities. When he informed her of the assignment, Vasquez's reaction was characteristically measured. Sir, I appreciate the confidence shown in my abilities. I hope I can continue to serve effectively in whatever capacity is required. Richardson realized that he was losing one of the most capable soldiers he had ever commanded. But he also understood that Vasquez's skills were too valuable to limit to conventional operations. Sergeant, you've raised the standard for what's possible in precision marksmanship. Your impact on this unit will be felt long after your transfer. On her final day at the forward operating base, Richardson visited Vasquez's position one last time. The CheyTac M200 rifle remained in place, now bearing additional markings documenting her recent successful engagement at 3,780 meters. Another record, Sergeant? Richardson asked, noting the new emblem. Just another successful mission, sir, she replied. But Richardson caught a slight smile on her face for the first time since he had known her. As Vasquez prepared to leave for her new assignment, Richardson reflected on how her discovery had changed his understanding of the soldiers under his command. Her quiet professionalism and exceptional abilities had reminded him that the most valuable assets were often the ones that didn't seek attention. The helicopter that would transport Vasquez to her new assignment arrived as the sun set over the Afghan mountains. As she gathered her equipment and prepared to board, Richardson shook her hand with genuine respect. Sergeant Vasquez, it has been an honor serving with you. Your new unit is gaining someone truly exceptional. Thank you, sir. It has been an honor serving under your command. As the helicopter disappeared into the evening sky, Richardson returned to his duties with a deeper appreciation for the dedication and skill of the soldiers who served under his command. The discovery of Vasquez's abilities had not only changed tactical possibilities for his unit, but had reminded him why military service attracted people willing to push the boundaries of what seemed possible. The quiet sergeant from El Paso had taught him that sometimes the most remarkable achievements came from people who focused on excellence rather than recognition. and that discovering hidden capabilities among his own forces was one of the most rewarding aspects of command responsibility. In his final report on Vasquez's service with the unit, Richardson wrote, "Sergeant Vasquez represents the highest standards of military professionalism and technical competence. Her contributions to mission success and force protection have been exceptional, and her approach to service serves as an example for all personnel under my command." The emblem on her rifle had told only part of her story, but it had led Richardson to discover the complete picture of a soldier whose dedication to excellence had made her one of the most capable marksmen in military history. Her transfer to special operations would give her opportunities to utilize her skills on the most critical missions, but Richardson knew that her impact on conventional forces had already changed how commanders thought about the possibilities of precision marksmanship. Years later, when Richardson reached retirement and reflected on his career, he would remember Sergeant Elena Vasquez as one of the finest soldiers he had ever had the privilege to command, someone whose quiet excellence had redefined his understanding of what dedicated professionals could accomplish when given the opportunity to excel.